So welcome everyone to another Road Trek RV Rally chat. Great to have a good turnout today, and unfortunately Jack Woods can't be with us today, so we're going to have a little tour of lower and mid Arizona, heading up to the Grand Canyon around Flagstaff, and then we'll have an open forum chat for any discussions or questions that people may have. We'll try and share them here. So I'm just going to share my screen and give you a little bit of a idea where the Apache Trail is. So some of you have asked about that in the past. And if you go down here just east of Phoenix, right in this area, if you can see my cursor, is a little place called Apache Junction. Great little area. And then there's an Apache Trail that winds through the mountainous area up this way. And right up here is the Roosevelt Dam and the Apache Lake. And so we're going to cover this area. Now, if you look on the Google Maps, you'll see that there's a bit of a track there, but it doesn't show that road going all the way through. And it will make you go all the way around if you don't realize that the road actually does go through, but it's more of a farmer's trail than a road in some areas. So that's about a 40-mile trek on gravel road. Some of it is a little bit washboardy. Then the last part is paved. And then we're gonna show you that area. And then we're gonna jump up to the Sedona area. And I'm gonna show you a little place called Montezooma Caves, which is here. Then we're gonna go over and around the Cottonwood, Sedona area, and then head on up to Flagstaff area. And then that takes us up to the Grand Canyon area, which is here. And then from there, I've got another trip that takes us up in Page in Utah and that sort of thing. So that's kind of what we're going to show you. So we'll get started on that. One of the things we actually did was we drove down to Arizona-Mexico border, and we do some humanitarian mission trips in Mexico every year. So we took almost a month and drove down, and then we left our road trek with a friend in Phoenix. And this is my friend Brad. He stored our unit for us for 3 months, and then we went back in the spring and we drove it back home. So this is kind of part of our first leg coming back home from the Phoenix area. And I just wanted to show you some really nice spots along the way. This is Pagonia Park, just south of Tucson, but it's a very reasonable park. As I recall, it was only about $28 camping, right on a nice lake, very clean, and lots of trees and shade. We really enjoy this place. We've been there 2 or 3 times. So if you're headed for lower Arizona, that's a wonderful spot. And here's another really quite a neat place. It's called Hot Wells. And if you look on the map near Stewart, Arizona, you'll see this. And it's out in the desert. You drive 26 miles down dirt roads to get to this place. And there's a little kind of a informal campground. You put $3 in this little holder here with your license plate, and you can stay as long as you want for $3. But it is out in the middle of nowhere, 26 miles to the nearest area of civilization, and just a little oasis with natural hot tubs. And there's 2 of these, and so we got to enjoy that. And nobody else was there. Just a very delightful little spot and a little oasis in the middle of nowhere, as I said. But this is all you see all around, just sand dunes and bush. But it's a nice little spot if you're going down that way. So that's just a little detour before we get to Apache Junction.
Doug, a question?
Yes, go ahead.
What was the name of that campground? We're heading that way in a month.
It's called Hot Wells.
Hot Wells, thank you.
Yeah, and if you Google it, it comes up as Hot Wells. It's near a place called Stewart, and it's southeast of Tucson.
Great, thank you.
Okay, and I thought this was kind of unique, how they camouflage their electrical, and they're, I'm sure these are like satellite dishes of some sort with, make him look like a palm tree. I thought that was kind of a unique way of camouflaging things. So we're now at a place called Apache Junction, which is the start of the Apache Trail. And just on the eastern outskirts of this little village is a place called Superstition Mountain. And they've got a kind of a little western village there. They've got a stagecoach with some horses out front, and quite a nice little tourist area. They do have a miniature village there, and I collect miniature toy replicas, so this was of interest to me. But it's a little mining town that likely was there in days gone by, and it's all made up in little miniature buildings, and there's a train that goes around through there and that sort of thing. So it's kind of a very unique little thing to look at. And then just nearby is what they call the Arizona Opry, and this family, the Barleen family, hosts a dinner theater show every night, and we were so lucky to be able to get tickets. And they just serve a very nice country style dinner there. And then the family and other musicians put on a really good variety show, kind of a country and western theme, but we really enjoyed that. So if you're going down that way, do try and take advantage of that entertainment if you're so inclined. And so this is a Superstition Mountain. And I'll mention that in this area, at the foot of this mountain, there's the Dutchman State Park. And it's one of the better parks that I've seen. We didn't stay there, but it's got all paved level parking spots. Very popular location from what we observed, and just a delightful park, very clean, very well kept, and you might want to be aware of that. So we're now headed up the dirt road, and you're getting into a mountainous area. And as you come through these mountain ranges, you'll often have little valleys, and there will always be very nice, pristine, clean lakes as part of the riverbed. And I would say it's almost like a miniature Grand Canyon. Lots of rock formations and gullies like this. And it's very picturesque and very beautiful. Here's one of our stops along the way. Always some pullovers and stopping areas. You can pretty much boondock in many places along this area. And I'll show you one or two spots that we thought were particularly well. From time to time, you'll see waterfalls coming out of the rocks. It amazes me how over years and years, the staining of this water on the rock seems to spread. And this is kind of a common sight along the way. Here is a little picnic area, a rest stop. And you can see at the bottom of the photo there, they've got a little shelters with picnic tables. Usually very well kept. Some are well organized with stuff like this. Others are more primitive, but just delightful, clean water in these lakes. And I always say we got two types of beauty here. This is my wife, Grace, and just stopping at one of the other pullover rest areas as we go along. You really do want to plan a minimum of a day, and likely you could spend, we spent little 2 days, I guess, going through here. It's really slow going. You've got, here's a sample of the dirt road, a lot of hairback turns. You got to be really careful on the corners because you never know what's coming around the other side. And of course, I should warn you that there are no pit stops along this route. There's no stores. So you got to be prepared when you go there, have a full tank of gas, have your groceries and other provisions on board, because there's no stopping along the way. There's one little western town that I'll share with you in a minute, but otherwise you've got the most part of a day's drive, about 40 miles of dirt road with nothing in terms of facilities or services. A lot of switchback turns, along the mountainside, but just a delightful drive and scenery, as long as you're not afraid of those switchback turns. So about halfway along, there's an old western town called Tortilla Flats. And if you're looking at the Google Maps, this is roughly where that road shows as ending. But you can carry on from here. And this is an old western stagecoach town. It's mostly a little tourist stop now. There's only a restaurant and this kind of a trading post here. So it's mostly a tourist site. They do have a saloon there with entertainment on the weekends in the afternoons. And some, you know, tourist type things like, you know, this guy here obviously wasn't well behaved. So that's how they deal with people who don't behave. And we're headed on now further east down the roadway. And this is going into a boondockers camping site. And we actually stayed at this lake overnight. Just a great spot. I should mention that you need to have a permit. And at the Tortilla Flats Saloon, you can buy a permit for $8. And I do believe that permit lasts you for a week to use any of these facilities. You don't need a permit to go through this Apache Trail area, but you're supposed to have a permit if you camp and stay overnight. Now, we did not have a permit, and we did not know that at the time. So we were fortunate enough that when we pulled into this little camping area, there was another couple there, and we stopped and talked to them, and they told us about the permit. And they said actually they had gotten an extra one for some friends, but their friends had canceled. So they were so kind to give us the extra permit they had. So we never got checked for it. Nobody bothered us. But just so you know that, you know, there's no cheaper camping than $8 for a week. So this is our campsite. Very primitive, of course, as I mentioned, but lots of shade trees. We really enjoyed a little barbecue there. We gathered up some wood from the area, just scrap wood, and had a little campfire by the lake. So this is kind of halfway between our van and the lake. And so we really had a delightful evening there, and very quiet. The water was crystal clear. The next morning, Grace got up and went for a little run. The other people had brought their boat, so they left their boat just in the water overnight. And but absolutely gorgeous.
That's a really nice boat.
Yeah. So this is the next morning. We're getting ready to head out. And, you know, if I would have had more time, I would have loved to have stayed there another day or two. Just pretty close to heaven, I would say.
I could see spending a week there.
Yeah.
So we're headed on further east now. And again, we're now getting into more flatter territory. It's not so many switchback turns and mountainous roads. So a little bit flatter, but a little bit washboard. So we couldn't make very good time there without shaking everything pretty much. So just we only went along there 20 miles an hour or so to try and dodge the washboarding, but it was okay. A lot of very beautiful cactuses, and I really was quite amazed at the flowering cactuses that were in this region, and something that you don't often think about when you talk about cacti.
What month were you traveling?
This would have been March, I believe.
Okay.
So we're back into some hilly areas here again. Another corner to be aware of, being careful what's coming around the corner, honk your horn before you go around. And after 40 miles of dirt road, we're finally onto some pavement. And yeah, it was kind of nice to see that pavement coming up. But we still got several miles to go along this road. And eventually we come to the Roosevelt Dam. And as I said, this is kind of like a miniature Grand Canyon trip. And this is kind of like a miniature Hoover Dam, what they call the Roosevelt Dam and the Apache Lake. So after we come up around the dam, we get onto the main road. And then there's this bridge goes across. And on the right is what they call Apache Lake, and you can Google that. And then this is a place called Bermuda Flats. And as you can see, there's camping down along the shoreline there. So we just drove in, and it was a nice little area, a reasonably nice beach, fairly solid sand. So not a worry to drive out there right by the waterside. They did have some outhouse facilities available, but nothing else. But just a very nice area to camp over if you wanted to boondock. That was not very crowded at all, and we really enjoyed that. Of course, this is another shot of the beauty in this area, and yeah, we really enjoy this. We really enjoyed this area and the scenery that we saw. So now we're going to head on up towards Sedona, and we've got maybe a good 2.5 hour drive. We stayed here most of the day. So the next part of our drive up that way was kind of in the dark, so I didn't really get any photos. But this is an area the next morning, getting up north of Phoenix, and we took this picture. We saw the sheep, but we didn't envision the shepherd that was there until we got our photos and uploaded it to the computer. And that was kind of unique. There's a shepherd out there with his sheep. And this is almost getting towards Cottonwood, Sedona area. This is a place called Montezuma's Cave. And so along these cliffs, you can see all these holes here. And you can see this here. And this goes into a community. So these were caves that in bygone days, people lived in these holes as caves. And actually, this was a settlement area. There's other ones of these along the wall, but I didn't want to bore you with too many photos, but quite an amazing area. This is kind of a historical site, a park area. And actually, they have tour guides there to take you on a tour if you so choose. Just kind of an amazing site, not far off the interstate. And there's signs on the interstate actually say Montezuma's Caves. So interesting stop if you're going that way. Starting to get into the very fancy rock formations coming into the Cottonwood Sedona area. And you could do a whole presentation on that area just by itself, but this is driving into Sedona. Lots of opportunities there to enjoy hiking. A lot of washes where you'll see some that are dry, and then you'll see some like this with a bit of water in them. But just a beautiful area to go for hiking or walking, sit and have a picnic lunch, or just to enjoy the solitude of the area. And amazing to see what the water does. And this one reminds me that, I've heard a saying that erosion can be creative. And when you think of the number of years that this water has been trickling down through these rocks to create that little small indented area, it's just amazing what nature does and the beauty that it brings. Another interesting spot there is Blazing Ranch. And the ranch is kind of it's a tourist area just on the outskirts of Cottonwood. And they have some stores there and some horse-related stuff. Of course, Grace is into fashion styling, so Rodeo Drive appealed to her because that's a popular spot in LA. And but she misbehaved, unfortunately. So she got locked up in the local jail for 2.5 minutes to get a photo. And then they serve a dinner there and they have a little concert. So we have friends in the area that live there, and we stopped to visit them. And so one night we had dinner at the Blazing Ranch and enjoyed their show. Many of you know that I'm involved in Rotary. We do a lot of Rotary humanitarian aid work. So it's customary when we travel that we would stop and visit Rotary clubs along the way. And so we were with the Sedona Rotary Club for part of a day and sharing the ideas that we use. And I'm involved with United Nations as a Rotary ambassador. And so we share with them Rotary's involvement with the UN. And many don't even know that it was the 49 Rotarians that helped establish the UN in 1945. So now we're headed north from Sedona. We're going towards Flagstaff and the Grand Canyon. And here's some more of the sites. These two little rocks here are called the Twin Sisters. It's amazing the formations you see and how they appear to be something that you would recognize. Interesting to see all the different layers of rock through the years. And here's another one which they call the mother and daughter. And quite interesting. And now we're getting up to the Grand Canyon here, overlooking that part. We're on the south rim. And just amazing scenery there to look at and admire. Lots of people doing hiking. This is called the Duck on the Rock. Looks like a duck there. This gives you a little bit better view of it. But of course, anything to attract the tourists and be a photo op is very popular parts of it. And we've kind of enjoyed that. It was a little bit overcast the day that we were there, but that's fine. It turned out well. Lots of rock formations and, as I said, opportunities for walking and hiking. And I had the greatest urge to yell out to this guy to take a step back so I could get a better picture. But I can't imagine going out on that ledge so near the edge. That's, I don't think I would be prepared to do that, but they seemed to think it was okay. They're obviously well below the protective fence line. And some old relics there to run across. So I'm sure many of you have been to the Grand Canyon or seen photos. This is now at the very eastern end. So if you do happen to go to the Grand Canyon, they do have some campgrounds. The Grand Canyon National Park, I believe, is one. But there's really a nice little campground at the very end of the Grand Canyon Park area. This is nearby where we stayed this night. And this is kind of the parking lot at that campground. And I'm disappointed that I didn't have a photo of that campground. I thought I had taken some, but I couldn't locate them. So, but at the very eastern end of the Grand Canyon area, you'll find a really nice campground and very flat, all services. And so we really enjoyed our evening there. So that's a little bit of what we've covered going from up through Apache Trail and the Sedona to Grand Canyon. I've got another one that I may do sometime in the future, which takes us up to Page in Utah and up through the Navajo Indian areas and just some beautiful countryside up through there. And maybe we'll share that at some point in the future. So any questions or comments at this point?
Very nice.
Very nice, Doug.
Thank you.
Have you ever hit the north rim of the Grand Canyon?
I have hit it when I was in Las Vegas. We didn't have our road trek then. We were in a rental car. And I have taken the airplane ride over the North Canyon out of Las Vegas. I didn't see a big difference between the two.
The biggest difference I understand is that the north rim is not as populated and crowded as the south rim.
Yeah, I couldn't say. When we were there in I think it was March of the year, we wouldn't say it wasn't crowded at all. We didn't have any issues with parking or people, and as you can see the photos I took, there weren't any people in them.
Right.
So it wasn't an issue, but, you know, I would say March is on the shoulder season. If you get into, you know, other more popular months, it may be more crowded, but we didn't, either time when I was north or south, I wouldn't say I noticed a difference. What else we got? Any wind-up comments on that? If there are, we're glad to handle them. If not, we can talk about anything else you wish.
It's Brenda. I have a question. So being a newbie, what is the term washboarding mean in this context?
Well, I guess if you're a farm
That's a good
person, that's a rural term, but on a country road that's dirt or gravel, in some cases, if they don't keep it graded, it gets very bumpy, like little ridges, like a washboard, an old-fashioned washboard. So what happens is if a road gets used a lot, or if there's heavy trucks going across it, and the road graders aren't coming along to smooth it out every once in a while, it gets kind of a rippley effect. We call that washboarding.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay.
So Doug, speaking of washboarding on the Apache Trail, so we have, unfortunately, our second road trek is or fortunately, is a 2005, and it's got ground effects. So we are much lower than your rig is. How do you think it would be for road trek with not great clearance?
Oh, I don't think clearance is an issue. It's the bumpiness and the rattling and shaking that's the issue. And
Okay.
You can deal with that just by slowing down. You know, 40 miles doesn't sound like a long ways, but if you're only going 15 or 20 miles an hour because of that, it's going to take you a long time. And there are certain areas where you just drive down the wrong side of the road because it's smoother.
All right, thanks.